Have you ever felt like you're not really in control? Like some unseen force nudges you to snap at a loved one, chase endless approval, or replay a mistake that haunts your peace? Maybe you've noticed yourself obsessing over a comment someone made, or avoiding a risk because it feels too big. What if that force isn't the real you? What if it's your ego, quietly pulling the strings while your true self waits in the wings? Right now, we're stepping into a transformative journey with Carl Jung to explore the ego versus the self. You might think you know who you are, your likes, your role, but what if you've been living through a mask you didn't choose? This video will challenge your beliefs and spark a shift. If you're tired of feeling controlled and ready to find how to find your true self, stay with me. This could be the turning point you've been seeking. Understanding the ego. Let's begin with the ego. This is the part of you that feels like you day to day. Carl Jung saw it as the center of your conscious mind, the voice that plans your schedule, defends your pride, and wants to shine. It forms early in life, molded by your family, your culture, and the moments that shaped you. As a child, you learned what worked. Maybe you got smiles for being the helper, so your ego latched on to that role. Or perhaps you were teased for being different, so it buried that uniqueness to fit in. The ego's role is to protect you. It builds a story, a narrative like, "I'm the responsible one," or "I must succeed," to navigate the world. But here's where it gets tricky. It can manipulate you. It craves control, pushing you to prove yourself, even when it costs your peace. Have you ever argued a point just to win, even if you knew you were wrong? That's your ego guarding its image. It fears losing power, so it traps you in cycles, chasing validation, dodging failure, or pleasing others at your expense. Jung-moded, this grip can disconnect you from the self, keeping you surface level. It's not bad, it's just limited, like a compass that only points north, missing the vast landscape around you. Reflect for a moment. When did your ego take the wheel today? Exploring the self. Now, let's turn to the self, your true self. Jung described it as the totality of your psyche, the place where your soul connects to a higher purpose. It's not just your thoughts or habits. It's your deepest potential, the part that feels harmony, meaning, and oneness. Picture it as the root of a tree, with the ego as the visible branches swaying in the wind. The self holds your innate wisdom, beyond the chatter of daily life. This isn't a vague concept. It's a living presence within you, waiting to be embraced. Jung called the process of discovering it individuation, a lifelong journey to integrate all parts of yourself. Have you ever sat by a river, lost in its flow, and felt part of something bigger? That's a whisper from the self. It doesn't shout or demand. It speaks through intuition, vivid dreams, or a quiet certainty. Unlike the ego, it doesn't need to dominate. It seeks balance, growth, and a connection to the divine or universal. Jung believed symbols like the mandala, circles within circles, reflect the self's quest for wholeness. When you align with it, you feel less like a puppet and more like the author of your story. Pause here. When have you felt that quiet strength? Ego versus self, real-life insights. How do the ego and the self show up in real life? Let's compare them with stories and metaphors. Think of the ego as a prison guard, keeping you safe but locked in familiar walls. The self is freedom, wide open fields where you can run and breathe. Or imagine a child clinging to a father's strict rules, afraid to explore. The child is the ego, bound by fear. The father's gentle wisdom is the self, inviting growth. Consider Nelson Mandela. In his 27 years in prison, his ego could have fueled rage against his captors. Instead, he turned inward, tapping into the self. He found forgiveness and emerged as a symbol of unity. His ego wanted justice. His self chose reconciliation. Now meet Lisa, an ordinary woman from Ohio. She worked tirelessly to impress her colleagues, her ego craving their nod of approval. Burnout forced her to pause, and through therapy, she uncovered herself, a longing to write. She started a blog, finding joy beyond her job. Then there's Vincent van Gogh. His ego chased fame, leading to despair, yet his self poured into his paintings, revealing beauty amid pain. These stories highlight the ego's narrow focus versus the self's expansive vision. Look at your life. Where has your ego held you back, and where has your self guided you forward? Let's go deeper into these dynamics. The ego often masks fear with bravado. You might avoid a new hobby because it fears failure, keeping you stuck. The self sees failure as a teacher, pushing you to try. Metaphorically, the ego is a mirror, reflecting only the image you project. The self is a window, opening to your soul's depth. Take Mark, about 35-year-old father. His ego drove him to overwork, proving he was a good provider. Stress fractured his family, but shadow work revealed his self's need for presence. He cut hours, rebuilding bonds. Or look at Malala Yousafzai. Her ego faced terror after the attack, but her self championed education, inspiring millions. The ego reacts, the self responds with purpose. Notice this in your routine. When you feel rushed or defensive, that's the ego. When you feel calm or inspired, that's the self peeking through. Jung saw this tension as a dance. Your task is to lead with the self. How do you shift from ego to the self? Start with shadow work. Grab a notebook and explore a fear. Maybe a time you felt judged. Write it out. What did your ego hide? Meditation is key too. Sit for 5 minutes, watching your thoughts like clouds. Your ego will argue, let it pass, to hear your self's quiet voice. Try observing your day. When you feel pride or shame, ask, is this my ego? Then breathe, inviting the self's peace. Journaling deepens this. Ask, what does my true self value? You might find it's connection, not status. These align with Jung's individuation, guiding you to spiritual growth. Start small. Pick one practice this week. Let's hear more tales. Rachel, a 28-year-old artist, lived for praise, her ego ruling her craft. Burnout hit, but meditation unveiled her self's love for pure creation. She paints freely now. Then there's James, a 40-year-old teacher. His ego chased perfection, straining his health. Shadow work revealed his self's need for rest. He now balances work and wellness. These shifts show the ego's hold fading as the self emerges. Your story awaits. Where can you begin this shift today? What's the takeaway? The ego is your conscious identity, protective but confining. The self is your soul's essence, leading to wholeness. Jung's insight is a map to balance them. 2 lessons shine. First, meditate daily. Even 10 minutes observing thoughts can quiet the ego, revealing the self. Second, do shadow work. Journal your shadows, integrate them, and watch your life transform. You're not alone. Act now. Reflect. When did your ego rule today? Try a meditation or journal entry this week. Share below. I'm here for you. Like, subscribe for more on Carl Jung and spiritual growth, and hit the bell. Let's grow together.